Much for attending today. Again, my name is Kevin West, and I'm the University Inclusion Officer. As many of you know, the University of Toledo and the Health Science campus merged several years ago. After that merger, faculty, staff, and students got together to develop a mission statement. You'll see that mission statement on the board. I'd like you to notice that with that mission statement, that last phrase, and to serve as a diverse, student-centered, public metropolitan research university. It's very important. The university also has a core value system. It has 7 core values. We're going to go over 2 of them. You'll notice compassion, professionalism, and respect. Treat every individual with kindness, dignity, and care. So as you as TAs interact with students, it's your role to make sure that you're treating individuals with kindness, dignity, and care. And if you are doing that, it's going to be really difficult for you to violate the university's policy and our policies. Diversity, integrity, and teamwork. Create an environment that values and fosters diversity. So I'm challenging you right now to think about when you are interacting with students, what you can do to foster diversity. If I was giving a diversity speech 15, 20 years ago, the buzzword was tolerance, right? So if you were to say, Kevin, I tolerate you, that's a lot different than Kevin, I value you. Kevin, I want to foster your development. Kevin, I want you to succeed in my class. So diversity is specifically embedded in the university's mission statement and our value statement, in our strategic plans, in our commitment to diversity and various university policies. But you'll also see we have several offices and programs that work to ensure that there is diversity and inclusion across the university. So I see the thought bubble over everyone's head. So what is it that you do, Mr. West? Well, I review all employment actions. That's all hiring, terminations, promotions. All those things have to follow the university's plans and relate to diversity and inclusion. I'm also a Title IX officer. I do ADA investigations, sexual harassment investigations, discrimination investigations, and investigations related to retaliation. So at any point in time in your career as a graduate student, you feel that you're being subjected to sexual harassment, discrimination, or retaliation, you can always raise those issues with my office. Also, as a TA, if a student brings a complaint against you, those complaints can come to my office and we would address those issues accordingly. Title IX, what is it? For the football fans in here, you hear a lot of talk about Title IX as relates to sports and athletics. However, because we receive federal aid in the system, we are required to ensure that we have a safe learning environment for all of our students. So Title IX binds us to do that. So the university also has an obligation under Title IX. When there's a complaint, we have to respond to that complaint within 60 days. So if a student in your class says that they've been sexually assaulted, they say that they've been sexually harassed, or they make a complaint, you can't keep that issue to yourself. You must share that information with the dean of the graduate school, with my office, with your department chair, and the only appropriate person to get that to, that appropriate person is me, right? But it is important that the university respond. You are an agent of the institution. It's important that the university have that information and that we respond.
Sorry, we have a little technology glitch and we're just replacing the battery so that the students that are going to be viewing this online will be able to get the full value. You can still hear Mr. West, but it would have been picked up for the 360 capture.
What is university?
Know the technology in the classroom. And things like this do happen, so don't freak out. I had a nice couple of videos planned last spring in my parasitology class, hot off the press. I was so thrilled. They worked great on my computer, both my laptop and my desktop, and I get to the room and they had a makeshift computer in the room and discovered they didn't have the software to run the video. So I had all these amazing images of parasites crawling in and out of people's tissues. Sorry. But it capture undergraduate pre-med's interest, and show them. So it didn't quite translate to what I tried to describe it. So it just happens. And even though you think you're all set, check it out. But if that day that computer's not working, you're not going to have the delivery. So do have a plan B. So our plan B was this morning is that do we have spare batteries for the mic Thank you a lot. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much. I enjoy when I'm in any meeting with Dr. Comenetti and she's talking about parasites going through people's tissues. She gets so excited. Sexual violence and hostile environment. Again, we have an obligation to investigate these issues and try to ensure that we have a safe environment for all of our students. So at any point in time, if students come to you with an issue or concern related to these issues, you need to make sure that you let someone know. Again, we have an obligation to make immediate action when those things happen. So where can you report? You can go to the Dean of Students office, the University Police Department, the University Counseling Center. If a student comes to you and they have an issue about wanting to remain anonymous, the University Counseling Center is a great place for them to go. It's a great place for you to send them so they can address that issue. Housing and Residence Life has also received training in this area. They can come to my office. Our faculty and staff have also been trained, and we'll send those students to the appropriate places on campus. We've also had 5 employees across the institution be trained in a 40-hour training this summer with the YWCA so they can specifically be advocates for this issue. So again, there are people out there at the institution that want to help students, and as agents of the institution, you have an obligation to bring these issues forward if they come to you. Several years ago, there was a sexual harassment task force that looked at this issue. We looked at all the investigations regarding sexual harassment that had happened on both campuses over the years. And one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we clarified was this issue about power and authority, right? So what we wanted to make sure, and we wanted to be clear to all members of the university community, if in fact you use your power and authority to violate our sexual harassment policy, you will be either terminated or expelled from this institution. So we take this issue very, very seriously, right? We've terminated a tenured faculty member for violating this policy, right? So I see many of you may be thinking in the room, but I'm just a TA. I don't really have that much power and authority. But if you are in a position of power, you're the person who's teaching the class, you're the person who's representing the faculty member, you're the person who's meeting with students in some of these groups, you are in a position of power. You are an authority figure. So you need to make sure that you act honorably and you don't use your power and authority to violate the policy. These are some examples of sexual harassing or sexual violent behavior, some things we want to make sure that we stay away from. And also be concerned, there may be some of these actions that you aren't doing but are going on in some of the classrooms that you are responsible for. You have an obligation to help stop this behavior. The previous presentation kind of talked about things that you can do in classes when they're disruptive, whether that's go into that area or look those individuals in the eye. Again, control the classroom. It's really important. There's some concern, I think, about social networking. Who here has a Facebook account? Okay, who does not have a Facebook account? Is there anyone in here? That's right, okay. Sir, what is your name? Jim. If in fact you did have a Facebook account and you were the TA of a 1,000 level course that had 200 students in it, and one of the students tries to friend you, do you respond, yes, friend? You would say no. Why would you say no, Jim? I like Jim. Jim's good. Again, there is nothing explicitly wrong with being Facebook friends with a student. However, what seems to happen is people forget the things that they're actually posting onto Facebook, right? So if, in fact, every time you go to Arnie's, you post pictures from Arnie's, you post your statements, your thoughts that you had on Arnie's, that's probably not the things you want to be sharing with your students, right? We've also had some cases where an actual Facebook friend of yours, some friend from high school that you haven't talked to in 25 years, well, probably 5 years for you guys, I guess 10 years, I don't know. They send you that Facebook post that says, which Gilligan's Island character are you? Right? Nothing wrong with that, right? And then they send you another one that says, which Grey's Anatomy character are you? Right? Nothing wrong with that. But then they send you another one that says, what's your favorite sexual position? Right? And what happens oftentimes is people just get lazy, right? The Gilligan's Island one, automatic forward to all my friends. The Grey's Anatomy one, automatic forward to all my friends. The sexual position one, automatic forward to all of my Facebook friends. And now this student, right, this person who you were tutoring after hours is now, wait a second, why is the TA asking me this question? Right? We've had other instances where individuals who have gone onto dating sites, right? They go to Match.com and they have an individual profile, and on the profile they say, I'm a TA in Econ 1012. Want to get an A? Right? You guys are in a position of power and authority. Make sure you use that power and authority appropriately. Again, sometimes you may see things in your classroom that other students are doing, right? You may have an individual in class who when they're working on group projects is always touching other students, right? You have an obligation to say, that's not appropriate in this classroom. Off-campus conduct, right? Again, you're at Arnie's every Thursday night. After class, you post on Facebook and Foursquare, right, your status update. Student then comes in, brings you a frosty beverage, sits down, wants to have a conversation. Is that a good idea? Why is that not a good idea? Ma'am, why is that not a good idea? So again, it's a boundary issue. It's a boundary issue. You want to make sure that students always know that you are an agent of the institution and you're always behaving as such when you're around them. So again, quid pro quo harassment, if in fact you as a TA would say, if in fact you go on a date with me, I'll then make sure that you get additional points on that assignment, right? Something that we would never do. And then hostile environment harassment, right? What happens in the environment? There may be things that are going on with a particular student or students outside of the classroom, right? And that you wouldn't know about. But if there are things that then happen inside of the classroom that support that behavior, that's even more reason for you to make sure that you are clear with how you manage your classroom and that you're always creating a safe environment for students. Tony Howard is in the back of the room. She's going to give us a great presentation on ADA, but also know that my office does investigations on this issue. If a student comes to you and says that I need an accommodation, or I'm requesting an accommodation, or the Office of Academic Access is working with us, please be sensitive to those issues, right? If a student says I need or I request an accommodation, don't say, well, I don't see your disability. Don't do that. Be respectful of the student. Again, any discrimination or harassment, those investigations all come to my office. We try to address those issues appropriately. Retaliation, right? If there's a student who is questioning a grade on an assignment or questioning something that you did in class, and now you are charged with grading their second assignment, right? It's potential that those individuals then come back and say, wait a second, you're retaliating against me. I filed a valid claim. You need to be really concerned about that. The bar for harassment and discrimination is a pretty high bar. The bar for retaliation is a low bar, right? So if a student says that Dr. Komanecki was harassing me, right, and now Dr. Komanecki is grading my assignment, definitely something that Dr. Komanecki will want to take to the department chair and make sure there was full discussion and disclosure about what was going to happen next and what the protocol was to address that issue. Again, the issue is going to be any adverse action. So if in fact I file a complaint and you write a letter of recommendation for everyone in my group but me, that could be perceived as an adverse action. So be really mindful of that. All right, we're going to do a pop quiz. In week 12, you offer a pop quiz. Upon passing out the quiz, the student indicates that unannounced assessments are not mentioned anywhere in the syllabus. I am unable to take the test and require assistance because of my disability. What do you do? Sir, what do you do? Yes, you. Yes. Yes. Right? Okay. So the student says, "Hold on, I don't want to take this pop quiz. There was no mention of pop quizzes anywhere on the syllabus. I need to talk to the Office of Academic Access to address this issue." Right? You're then going to walk up to the student and say, "Hey, my syllabus says it's subject to change. Take the test now." That's your answer? Okay. Gentleman next to you, yes, sir? As long as it's documented by the Office of Academic Access, that's important. Right. Mm-hmm. There's a statement over here. Yes. All right. This is a great part of this presentation, right? So imagine I'm the TA in this class. There's as many people in this room as there are here. We walk into class and I pass out the pop quiz, right? You raise your hand and you say, "Wait a second," right? I'm the TA. I walk over and say, "What's the problem?" Right? You say, "It wasn't mentioned on the syllabus." And I then say, "Well, you're supposed to register beforehand. Sorry." Now, what does everyone who's sitting around you now think? Right? They think that you're unable to take the quiz. That student is now really embarrassed. That student is now really concerned. Is that really the welcoming environment that we want to create in the classroom? Right? We have to try to be really sensitive to these issues. Right? Sometimes you're going to be teaching a 1,000 level class. This is the student's first time in school. Right? It was difficult enough for that person to even go to see Tony Howard in the Office of Academic Access to be certified. Right? They got the syllabus, they reviewed the syllabus, and it didn't say anything about pop quizzes. Right? So they didn't think at that time that they needed service in that class. They have a right to do that. Right? So it's something to really think about. And Tony Howard's going to talk about that further when she does her presentation. You're teaching a statistics course and discussing probability. You decide to break the class into groups by race. Good idea? Why is that not a good idea? From the top. Anyone from the top of the room? Anyone from the top of the room on this side? How's that? Smaller population. Bueller. It's an old joke, but it still works. I love it. We're going to stay here until I get an answer. Why is that a bad idea? Yes, sir, in the back. So you'd be in a group by yourself. You'd be isolated, right? Again, we want to create an inclusive environment, right? And an assignment like that would not necessarily be inclusive. You're teaching a foreign language course and you value conversational use of the language in class. You then ask in French or Spanish or German, "Do you have many boyfriends?" "I bet you have many boyfriends. Do you have a big bed?" Is this a good idea? Why is this not a good idea? Okay, we're going to this side of the room. Why is it not a good idea? Because it's just wrong. I really like that answer. I really do. And the reason I like that answer is sometimes you need to really think of yourself from the student perspective and ask yourself, is this right or wrong? If I was that person, how would this make me feel? Whether it's breaking into groups by race, whether it's asking these ridiculous questions, right? Or whether it's just how a student perceives a particular issue. Make sure you're open to what their issues or concerns are and you try to address them appropriately. Any further questions for me at this time? Thank you very much. My name is Kevin West. I appreciate your time.